The implementation of the one-child policy in China was a drastic measure taken by the Chinese government in the late 1970s to control population growth. This policy had a profound impact on Chinese society, and its consequences have been far-reaching and at times dire. To understand the reasons behind the implementation of the one-child policy, we must examine the historical context. In the mid-20th century, China was facing a severe population crisis. The population had exploded, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for the government to provide basic necessities to its citizens. The leadership believed that if left unchecked, the unchecked population growth would hinder economic development and lead to widespread poverty and resource scarcity. Furthermore, China's economy, heavily based on agriculture, was struggling to sustain its growing population. Famine and food shortages were persistent problems, exacerbating the need for population control. The Chinese government recognized that immediate action was necessary to avert a potential catastrophe. In 1979, the Communist Party of China implemented the one-child policy. It mandated that urban couples were only allowed to have one child, while rural couples were permitted to have two if their firstborn was a girl. The government relied on a combination of incentives, rewards, and penalties to enforce compliance with the policy. The consequences of the one-child policy for Chinese civilization have been profound. On the positive side, the policy successfully achieved its primary objectives. China's population growth rate declined significantly, and it is estimated that hundreds of millions of births were prevented. However, the policy had dire consequences that have had far-reaching implications for Chinese society. Firstly, the one-child policy has resulted in a severe gender imbalance. Due to cultural preferences for male children and the imposition of penalties for having more than one child, many families resorted to gender-selective abortions or abandoned female infants, leading to a significant disparity between males and females. This gender imbalance continues to have a lasting impact on social dynamics, marriage patterns, and demographics. Secondly, the one-child policy has created a demographic challenge for China. The country is now facing an aging population and a shrinking workforce. With fewer young people to support the growing elderly population, the strain on the social security system and healthcare services is immense. Additionally, the decline in the labor force has severely affected economic growth prospects and led to a shortage of young workers, potentially hindering China's ability to compete globally. Furthermore, the one-child policy has had a detrimental impact on the psychological well-being of families. The pressure to adhere to the policy and the fear of punishment for non-compliance caused stress and anxiety for many couples. The loss of potential siblings has also resulted in increased pressure on only children to succeed academically and financially, leading to a phenomenon known as the Little Emperor syndrome. The policy also infringed upon reproductive rights and personal freedoms, causing human rights concerns. Forced sterilizations, forced abortions, and the intrusive monitoring of women's reproductive health became widespread. Family planning officials had significant power to enforce compliance, leading to human rights abuses and violations of personal autonomy. In recent years, recognizing the negative impact of the one-child policy, the Chinese government has made efforts to reform the policy. In 2015, the policy was changed to allow couples to have two children. However, the effects of the one-child policy continue to reverberate across Chinese society. The implementation of the one-child policy in China was driven by a genuine concern for the economic and social stability of the country. However, the consequences of this policy have been far-reaching and at times dire for Chinese civilization. The gender imbalance, demographic challenge, psychological impact on families, and human rights violations have marred the legacy of the policy. The lessons learned from the one-child policy serve as a reminder of the complexities and ethical dilemmas involved in attempting to control population growth and the importance of considering the long-term consequences of such policies on a civilization.